If you don't know, the Doctor's Surgery is Britain's first black current affairs show, bringing you the information, the pertinent information of all the key and crucial discussion points in the news over the past week. Um, the Doctor's Surgery is about discussion, active discussion. It's not about a rant, it's about getting your viewpoint, having a discussion around the issues, so we can talk, we can discuss, and develop what we say a common mindset amongst the community, amongst each other, in terms of having the key and crucial points of discussion come up front and being discussed. We're still in our fledgling stages, putting in a lot of measures in the background to make sure that this show is streamlined, and dedicating our time more and more gradually towards the development of the show. If you want to take part in the show, the number is 0753-996-8143. I'll give it again, 0753-996-8143. One last time for the money, 0753-996-8143. So if you want to take part in today's show and discuss any of today's topics, that's the number you call to have a discussion with us. Um, myself, the master presenter, I never give a name. It's just about giving you the information. It's not about me. If you want to watch live, you can watch live on YouTube by going to YouTube and searching the Doctor's Surgery, then going into filter and then filter by channels and hitting the channels button, and what will pop up is the Doctor's Surgery right at the top, and you'll see the live stream where you can watch live and direct us in the studio, well, myself in the studio, or you can listen on Omega 104.1 or mixcloud.com/Omega DJ, or online at omegafmradio.co.uk. What are the things of discussion this week? Well, we got quite a few bits to get through. The one that jumps out at me first within my notes is Wiley, the grime artist Wiley. Now, I want to say, if Wiley's out there listening, big up yourself, Wiley. I hope you're good. For those who don't know, the grime artist Wiley has been blasted with a lot of negative press in the media for the past few days. And the reason why Wiley was blasted with a lot of negative press in the media for the last few days is because Wiley said some comments that were deemed anti-Semitic, and these are the comments that, if you all want to know, if you don't know, and I'm giving the ones that were placed in the Sun newspaper. So I'm not giving anything that is not that wasn't already in the public domain. And they were saying that Wiley was banned from Twitter and dropped by his management for launching into an anti-Semitic rant. Um, and he's saying that basically Wiley was said to have said that Jewish people are too touchy, and saying Israel is not yours. Now I don't understand why. And well, let me go through all of them first. He said the screenshot in the shot that they took, the screenshot that they took in the Sun newspaper, said that showed Wiley as saying rednecks are the KKK and Jewish people are the law. Work that out. Um, and also, in fact, there are two sets of people who nobody has really wanted to challenge: hashtag Jewish and hashtag KKK. But being in business for 20 years, you start to understand why. Um, Now, looking at all these things so far, they even the paper gave Wiley's real name and everything. I've never seen his real name before. I only found out his real name because of this whole issue. Um, Wiley also was meant to have said, if you work for a company owned by two Jewish men and you challenge the Jewish community in any way, of course, you will get fired. If you breathe, you're being anti-Semitic. These law are taking the, and that's blurred out, cause they are the law. Um, so these are the things that they said Wiley was meant to have said. And they were saying that it was anti-Jewish and anti-Semitic, outpouring of anti-Jewish venom. But so far, in all what I read within the paper, and I'm trying to ascertain, unless there were things that were omitted, what was the vulgarity and the extreme hatred that was said. He wasn't talking anything about killing anyone. He wasn't talking anything about anyone hurting anyone. It sounded like Wiley had quite some negative experience in his time, as he said, in his 20 years in the business, and he felt like he needed to kind of highlight that. Now, in a weird sense, it sounds as if the response that was given to Wiley makes it understandable, or if that's the right word, makes it somewhat supportive of the points that he was saying, because the response that's being given to Wiley is to shut him down so that he's not able to speak, which is when we look at society, we have people spewing hatred and vile against black people every day on TV. Even very much yesterday, I was watching a piece on Meghan Markle, and the lady that was speaking on Meghan Markle, what was her name? Lady. So, huh?
Lady Colin Campbell.
Yeah, Lady Colin Campbell, or whoever this fool is, that fool is, and she claims to be Jamaican, trying to speak Twingy Tongy like she's the queen. You know what I'm saying? The hatred and vile that this so-called Jamaican white woman was spewing against Meghan Markle was unbelievable. But she's a nobody, I guess. So because she's a nobody, she hasn't got influence, and Wiley's a somebody and he's got influence. So what do they say? With great power comes great responsibility. So I guess if we look at it from a responsibility point of view, let's look at someone like Pierce, or even a Nick Ferrari, or these guys that they will spout things that are so closely linked to being blatantly racist, against black folks, but there's no ramifications, um, there's no repercussions for these actions. Only people like the idiot, what's her name, Katie Hopkins, that they are saying things that are clearly violent and promoting that real hatred, they will get banned. But the British society doesn't like Katie Hopkins anyway. And I think if it's someone that they like, because in the past, the what's his name, the Duke, Prince Philip, he said comments
Wired.
wired by Indians.
News or something like that.
So I mean, when you look at what the comments that people say, people have said so much things that are people of influence, people in position where people can hear them saying it. They've said so much things that's so blatantly racist. What's that woman, the other one that hated Megan, and she wore that brooch that they put in the paper, and it was the blackface, Black Moor, Princess Michael of Kent. Yeah, I think that's her name, Princess Michael of Kent. And her comments and her BA, yeah,
Michael.
yeah, Princess Michael of Kent. I'm sure that's her name. So all when we look at poor Wiley, and I say poor Wiley because I'm not going to knock back my brother for saying something that I can't see what is so vile and hate filled in it. When he said Israel was not the Jews, You know, when I remember once I watched a documentary on Israel, and they were asking the residents there why Israel belonged to the Jews. And the responses were, well, because it's in the Bible, it's in the religious books that this is the case, and da 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 da, that we've always been here. But if it was the case that they've always been there, why is it that a state had to be set up and established in 1948 after there was a discussion and group conferences, global discussing where to put all these people that were displaced out of Europe at the time of the Second World War? You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to say that the people deserve to be displaced. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not trying to bash Jewish people. I'm just saying, why is it that we can't speak on things that are factual? Because when you say factual stuff, it's like it's anti-Semitic. You know, people say, well, what about if they say black people are lazy? Well, some black people are lazy. You know what I'm saying? The fact of the matter is when you try to paint everyone with the same brush to say all black people lazy, that's a difference. When you start to make it sound like every single person you see that's this skin color is a certain way or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think anyone's going to assume or presume that while he's spouting painting the brush against all Jewish people. What are your experiences with the Jewish fraternity? My experiences with Jewish people have been mostly negative. It doesn't mean I've gotten up and hated them and I'm going to bash them, but it's been mostly negative. My experience with Jewish people has not been mostly positive, it's been mostly negative. I've always been treated, when I meet most Jewish people, I've been treated as if I'm supposedly lesser and inferior to them, and they are the chosen ones. That's my experience. Does that mean anything? Not really, because my experience with Jewish people has been around two or three, or four. And if it's four, from my recollection, three's been bad, one's been positive. So I'm not saying that it's going to be everyone, and my interactions has been vastly limited. But the very few that I've interacted with, the initial stages have been that battle where I feel like someone is looking down on me based on their tones, their interactions, and so forth. But it's not every single Jewish person that's like that. And like I've said, if the majority has been negative, but obviously, if the majority has been negative, there's been a positive or two in there somewhere. So we don't pay. I wouldn't tell people to hate someone because of their faith, because Judaism is a religion. I wouldn't tell anyone to hate someone because of their faith. That would be retarded and stupid. And in reading the comments, and I'm saying, unless there is more in those comments that weren't posted up, because I don't have Twitter, so I didn't see all the comments. So I'm saying, based on what I saw in the newspapers, I can't see what Wiley has done that is so wrong. So I'm going to back my brother. I ain't going to throw my brother to the wolves. You know, and when I was reading on it, there was a black playwright or author or something. I can't remember what he is. Do you remember the name? I can't remember the name. I closed the article on him now. Screenshot. And he was lambasting Wiley for what I don't know. And this is what it reminds me of. And I say that to roll on into this. This is what I mean when we look at it, say Israel is not yours. It what does that mean? Why did the question be asked? Why? What do you mean, Wiley, that Israel is not yours? Does it mean that you're saying because you felt that it's a landmass that was identified within the religious text and it was taken and the state was established there in 1948? So the original inhabitants up to that point lost out on land and access to certain things, which we know that's what the Palestinian gripe is. Not that I agree or disagree with the Palestinian issue and Israel and the war and battles that's going on between there, where the land, they're saying that Israel keeps building on the land from the 1967 war and all that stuff, right? You know what I mean? That's between two. When you see two dogs fighting and ain't none of the dogs represent you, don't get involved. So I'm not particularly trying to pick sides and saying this is right and that is wrong. I don't really care. The point I'm making is just looking purely at the comments, and the comments are grounded in information that is pertinent and can be discussed. Why is it that this information is untouchable? No one is saying that people should be placed in gas chambers. No one is saying anything that I can deem why the information was even reported to the police. You know, it's like you're saying, black man, hold your corner, which is exactly the point he was trying to make. They're the law. You can't say nothing. You can't even have a discussion. So it's a bit of a rhetorical scenario where is it because of his eloquence that he's not eloquent enough to say in a way? Or is it because of his ignorance where he's spouting racial hatred? Because sometimes we have to weigh up and balance those things. The same thing, I spoke about this a week or two ago when we were talking about Nick Cannon. And I'm going to say this now. My producer didn't agree with me on the point about Nick Cannon. Yeah. But I would hope my producer can see. Can you see?
Mm.
Now, with the point I was pushing to make, where when you have your own that's out in the public eye, you support them when they're making comments that are, you know, that allows us our freedom of speech and freedom of expression, because you would want to know that you can maintain that. If they say something that's anti themselves, anti you, then you don't support them. And I wish I did keep the name of that black guy who I was trying to bash Wiley within the news articles, because when I saw his name that said when he was asked, oh, who this fool? He sound like he's a bit, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And he was a bit, yeah. I'm gonna say it like that because people can only imply what I mean by but I'm going to say what I mean by See, I sound like I'm rapping, didn't it? Yeah, Wiley, give me a mix on your track. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's it. Novelist. I probably shouldn't say his name because people gonna say, "Oh, that didn't mean by you get me?" So I ain't gonna say his name now. You know what I mean? But big and serious. You know what I'm saying? I'm laughing, but I'm being serious. I'm not saying it in a hateful way. I'm just saying, if you ain't gonna back your own, I'm going to say you're a bit of and that's the first thing that I implied that I felt. That's when I saw it, and I go, "Oh, this guy's a bit of You know what I'm saying? Because you know I'm back your own, and that's my gripe with you. You know what I'm saying, that you didn't back your own. So well, what did you know? There was a time where Jay and Kanye don't see eye to eye. We all know that. And why I kind of give Jay-Z the level of respect that I do is because when they said to Jay, "Do you agree with Kanye on blah blah blah?" Jay-Z said, "This is America. You know, we have the freedom of speech," because he was speaking about having the ability to be expressive, whether it be right or wrong. You have the right to be expressive in your own state. And it's not a measure of whether you agree with what the person says or disagree. The person has the right to express how they feel. Why? Because when you go through academics, the higher up you go in the echelon of society, the more you see less of you. You understand what I'm saying? The higher up you go, the more you see less of you. And so you become this tokenized. And you know, Wiley, backtracking for a second, Wiley, you should have never have accepted that MBE. Because now they're talking about take back the MBE rate. You should have to keep them things long time. So you're fault that one as well. So you did some wrong in it as well. Because why did you want something to represent the British Empire? And then you're going to start go around lambasting them, saying that rednecks are like the KKK. You get me? But then you were upping them things because, you know what I'm saying? That's hypocrisy in itself. So you're not completely clean hands in this, but me I go back you anyway. I'm gonna support you anyway because I don't agree with them trying to tear you down for verbalizing something that I can't see the deep hatred that they're claiming. A police officer knelt in a man's neck in the UK, knelt in a man's neck after a man just so-called dead because another police officer in America knelt in a man's neck, and he can just get suspended. He should have been sacked because he did it with intent. He did it with that mindset, knowing the ramifications and the repercussions of that. But yet, a little suspension. With Wiley, police investigation and this and that. Two sisters died in the park. Police officers were taking selfies with each other. So we have disgusting actions by everyone in society. And you don't, but a man make a comment to say Israel is not yours, and you rednecks are the KKK, and the Jewish people are the law. But then the law is the Home Secretary. You know, I tell you about this Home Secretary woman already. You get me? So she fat and out of shape and look better. I'm I say it as it is. You get me? No disrespect to anybody out there that might be a bit big boned listening. You get me? I'm just burning a fire upon the Home Secretary different. You know what I'm saying? She's got the audacity to come out and say something about a comment, but yet with the Windrush scandal, no one don't want to say nothing. Where people have sacrificed their whole life to help to build this country back, and they wouldn't come out and say nothing, Pete. But the moment Wiley go, oh Ray, the Home Secretary is going to come out and go, well, we want to know why these platforms. Shut up, you fat idiot. You see your teeth them twist up in your mouth like for me. Yeah. Now I'm just this is the point I'm saying. When we hear these things against our people, you get me? When we hear these things against our people, we need to push back. We need to support our people because it's like you're saying that we're not to say nothing about nobody. We should just sit down in the corner and shut up because we have Black Lives Matter. We get 15 minutes of fame every American election. Think about it. You know? So when we look at society, the higher up you go, you know what I mean? You become what we call co-conified. And I say that because whilst you're a representative of us and we support you and we're glad you're up there, to be up there, you start to become less of yourself. Now, my producer would say, why is it that you're becoming less of yourself when you could just be being yourself? The point what I mean is, it's like you become, it grows a disconnect between you and the community. And sometimes having that disconnect between you and the community may not be a bad thing, but it can't also be a good thing. You know, I think that whilst you grow up in a society, you're supposed to always have that connection. You know, and that your community doesn't necessarily mean that we're supportive of an environment that produces criminality, because we need to get rid of this this criminal undertone that they try to always imply to the black community, an undertone of antisocial behavior, an undertone of drink, an undertone of drugs, and all these negative things that they lean on the community. You know, that the only thing we're good for is to dance and play music. Huh?
Entertainment.
You know, like we're entertainers, clowns, you know, court jesters. You know, like the McDonald's thing, where they get Ronald McDonald with the big lip and the afro ear and make it colorful so you don't see that they try to take the mickey out of a black man. It's no longer blackface, but yet a clown by features is a black person. This is how European society works. They give you a clown with a big nose. They make it red so you don't see the similarities. Big lips, We know that Europeans ain't got no big lips. We know that Europeans ain't got no afro here. And we know Europeans infer that our nose are big. So they give you a big nose, big lips, and afro here, right? A clown. That's how they present it. So all these little things, undertones, underpinnings of racism. Now, I I don't agree or I don't support the notion that you should step on the next group to come out of your muck and mire. So I wouldn't want anyone to be stepping on Jewish folks to be trying to take themselves out of the muck and mire. You know what I mean? But in Wiley's industry, so we have to look at context. In Wiley's industry, and it's always been said, in the entertainment industry as a whole, it's very strongly Jewish controlled. If you go back and you watch the movie Straight Outta Compton, is it called? That whole notion and narrative was played on, wasn't it? Where Jerry, the music manager that was meant to have discovered the group and or made them famous, you know, that narrative. You know what I'm saying? So in America, I don't know what the interactions are now, but in America, once upon a time, the two groups used to be synonymous with working together. However, you know what I'm saying? One is the controller and one is the purveyor of the art. But I'm of the view that you should always control 100% of everything you do. So not only should you be the purveyor of the art, you should also be the controller of your art. So in the music industry, if you want to make any headways, you have to always get through those controllers. You know what I'm saying? So based on that. So from that angle, we have to say, you know, perhaps that he had a negative experience that day and he lashed out. You know, but it's not about getting up and saying, oh yeah, Wiley's right, let's bash them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we still have to support Wiley. We have to support her brother. You know what I'm saying? We can't allow society to bash her brother in any context. You know, so running on with that, when we look at society, there was a documentary recently in the news. What was it? A documentary?
Or a clip, I don't know.
Talking, it was highlighted anyway that it's saying that, you know, the institution of racism and how far and wide it is now within the UK, and this is what's leaving that distasteful taste in my mouth. When we look at the English society, within the English society, as you go, as I said, as you go up the ladder within academics, you start to come into with that filtering. Text message read, leave them alone. No, nobody now trouble them. No one's troubling no one. I'm just lending clarity to something. Nobody now trouble no one. As we go up through British society and academics, we see a lesser and lesser representative of ourselves. You know, and it doesn't, like I said last week, it doesn't mean having a lack or lesser academic influence. It doesn't imply intelligence, even though this society likes to infer intelligence to academia. But you can be uneducated and be a millionaire, and you can be educated and poor. So access to growth isn't something that you look at based on academia. Access to growth is access to growth and being wise enough to take opportunities and making the most of it. But as we go up in the echelons of British society, you start to see how they becomes they becomes a filter in a way. So you start seeing less and less influence. And then when you do achieve a certain stature, your success can be your very own downfall, because it's like you land in a nest of vipers where other people see you, or that may be below you, that see you in that role that they want to take on, and they try to grab and tear you down from that role. So we have to be accommodating to having a voice, but not a hateful voice. We have to be accommodating to listening and hearing our brothers and sisters speak. And whenever they go cross a certain line, we pull them back and say, all right, maybe that was a bit too far, because like I said, you don't step on someone else to get out of your muck and mire. But we have to be allowed to have a voice, because without a voice, then we have no representatives in this country. We have no representatives. Who speaks on our behalf? We know the far right group, they have, what's his name?
Oh, the one that came from.
The one that organized the march down London.
Oh, I can't remember.
Whatever his name is, I don't even know his name. So within the far right groups, you have that. That's a voice. So far right people, when statues were being torn down, you know that this guy was going to come out of the woodwork. Is his name Griffin? What's his name? I can't remember his name. Does anyone know his name? So it's like you have the Islamic communities, you have the anti-defamation leagues, you got so much. So in a sense, one of the reasons why I said, whilst the initiation stages of Black Lives Matter and where it came about and where funds go when people support the organization, whilst I don't support that notion, at least it allows us to have a voice, a centralized access to a voice. But yet, is that voice universal in addressing all our needs, or is it more pinpointing certain areas? And I would love to know that it could perhaps grow into a positive voice for us. And this is why I don't tear down BLM, hashtag as they say, BLM, because we do need a voice also. We do need to have everything of our own also, because when we keep relying on people, relying on individuals, we are misrepresented. There's a lack of understanding of how to truly represent us. Because in reading the article on Wiley, and before I go on to my next subject, in reading the article on Wiley and listening to the news of all the articles said he was sacked by his management group. But when I read the article, it said his manager was contacted and his manager said, I'll speak to him. Then Wiley put up a post, and this is all in the newspaper. Wiley put up a post saying something negative and disparaging about his manager. And then all of a sudden, his manager was meant to have sacked him, but whereas his comment was already telling his manager to go away, till Wiley even posted a video saying, what's this? Look at this. This guy saying foolishness when I was the one that sacked him. Now he dropped me. This is how influential the media is. So even when you're right, you're wrong. And when you're wrong. Because someone is trying to stand on your neck. But again, I disagree with trying to stand on others' neck to get out of your muck and mire. We just need to build for ourselves. Stop trying to look for a hands out of situations, of out of scenarios. We need to start building our own enterprises and growing them, because that's all we need to do. Build our own enterprise and grow them in all areas. So there's no topic, there's no subject that shouldn't be able to be discussed but with respect. You know, there is no subject and no topics that can't be discussed. People discuss the N word all day, every day. And in discussing the N word all day and every day, it can be discussed with respect, but some people will use it in a negative and disparaging way. That I don't agree with. So be mindful. And that's all I said. And it's shocking that so much so that we can be kicked in the corners in so much times, and the Home Secretaries never come out so quickly and, and expeditiously for us. And it's a bit, well, granted, you do it there, you make sure you do it for everyone in the same way. I'm not saying don't do it there, but if you're going to do it there, what happened to Windrush? What happened to this? What happened to that? And all these scenarios, all these scenarios needs that representation, fair and balanced across the board. That's what with me I talk about. You get me? And I'm not backing from saying it. May I say it because it needs to be said. So that's Wiley. The next person that the next subject matter in the news, I kind of touched on it during my spew on Wiley, was Megan. And with Megan, the whole scenario is somewhat, what's the word? I don't understand what's going on with why they hate this woman so much. You're more in tune to that kind of socialite worldview and not just socialites, actors and commentators and so forth, artists and these things. Is it because do they get more attention first and foremost? I shouldn't say is it because, as if I know. Do they get more attention than their brother? Does Harry get more attention than his brother?
Yeah.
That's a yes?
Yeah.
So Harry gets more attention than his brother. So the son of the brother of the future king gets more attention than the future king.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, so does the wife of the brother of the future king get more attention than the wife
Definitely.
of the future king?
Definitely. I think because she was an actor, and then the way she came about, it was less what's the word I'm looking for? It was less
of a transition to
yeah, it was more of a case of she was popular, she was an actress already, and then with Kate, no one heard of her before, or no one knew of her before. She went through the education system and got whatever she got. Then with Megan, she was always made out to be fame hungry. And that's what the case is. Everyone's kind of intrigued by her because they can't work out whether she's fame hungry or whether she's a genuine sort of person just trying to go about her life.
No, but why is it that they're trying to work it out so much so whether she's fame hungry or not? I mean,
the line that she came from.
Are we talking about Kate or are we talking about Megan?
Megan.
So Megan's whole narrative since childhood that they played out to the world, no one asked them to. They played it out on the news and so forth, right? They played out the narrative that she was caring, that she was always looking globally and talking about certain things ever since a child, right? So what is it about it that has changed? Because she is just using the platform that she's now garnered to do the same thing. So she hasn't changed as a person. When you say someone is a gold digger, or when you say someone is trying to seek fame, is when there's a drastic change because of circumstances where they all of a sudden take on a pseudo role to what their initial personality or persona represented. She's literally a continuation of that persona. Nothing's changed. That's how she's always been.
But what they wanted is someone to comply with their rules. you see what I'm saying? So they wanted her to come into the royal family
Mhm.
and be like, act in that image. So they wanted to kind of alter her image to act to be in line with how they wanted to be presented.
So they wanted her to act like that bougie lady idiot from that speak like say she thinks she's the queen with the Jamaican accent and it's on backward.
Yeah, it was kind of like we like what you are and we like what you represent, but here's how I want you to represent us. And she didn't conform to that idea.
So the monarchy, so the monarchy is all a pseudo philosophy then, if everyone has to be represented in a certain way.
You could kind of interpret what's her name, Kate Middleton,
Mhm.
as kind of trying to go down the line of representation of Diana.
Mhm.
So it's all kind of following in that narrative of we have a set image, and if you don't fit this image,
Mhm.
then we're going to go against you.
Text message reads 198. Good morning, hitting the nail on the head, young lady. Okay.
Thank you.
So with her,
Mhm.
she's not following the narrative they want her to follow. Is that a negative on her? That this family has protocol and she should have known about this protocol before joining the family? Or is it the protocol is being pushed on her, but not the same way protocol is being pushed on her counterpart or brother, the brother's wife?
It's the same. It's the
Same
same
protocol.
I would have said it's the same
Mhm.
but one's more willing to go down that line than the other. And I think something within Meghan is like contradicting, where she's like, I can't go down that route, so I'm going to stick firm to who I am. And if you're not willing to let me be who I am, then I'll just remove myself and remove my family from the situation.
So, with that being said, then, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people say the British people were welcoming of her. Would you say the British people were welcoming of her, or she never had that great welcome that they claim that they've given?
There was always subtleties.
So
it was a case of it was blatantly, oh, we're welcoming you, but yet there was always an undertone of, if she doesn't carry on in the manner that we want her to carry on, then there's always negative implications or negative press.
Okay. So, so when we look at that scenario with Meghan, all you continuously see is that spew. Even like I said, everyone's just spewing this great hate. You know what I mean? That this continuous spew of hate. The text message reads 188. What's the sis name? Ivy West 12. Big up, sister Ivy. What's the sis name? You gonna give your name? I don't use my name. So
I don't have a name.
I don't have a name. It's sister in the background producer. Because the subject matters that we discussed are a little tentative, a little on the edge. You get me? We don't disclose the identities. They probably know who we are. You know what I mean? Don't make no difference. But you know what I mean? Just in case, make it a little bit harder for them. You know what I'm saying? The youngsters used to say, I don't know if it's true. The youngsters used to say, no face, no case. You know what I'm saying? I hate me. It's all like me, but hate me. You know what I mean? So the sister Ivy saying, have you got a radio name? So
I'm gonna have to come up with one. I'm sorry.
so then a radio one, what? Sparkale. Hold on. Yes, Sparkale. Yeah, that's your new name. So, you know what I mean? And she said, Sister Ivy says, you're good. She's good.
Thank you.
Big up yourself, Sister Ivy. Yeah, So if you want to take part, 0753 996 8143. I'll give it again, 0753 996 8143. So that's the aspect of things, where again, another person who had a voice and they wanted to take away the voice, and now but she stood firm with her voice because she's got a message that she feels she needs to give to the world, and she was always giving this message. So they should have known that with such a personality, then they should accommodate that message to the world. If they want people to fall in line and do as we say, you know what I mean? That's a whole nother kettle of fish. I don't know what I would say to that scenario because, you know, I can't I can't fall in line, even myself. I knew the topic of Wiley would be a tentative topic, but I still have to discuss it because that's who I am. And I will reverberate and regurgitate, you know what I'm saying? But I am not trying to bash anyone, but I support my brother. I'm not going to throw my brother under the bus for nobody. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not going to throw my brother and our sister under the bus for nobody. My brother and sister have to throw themselves under the bus. You get what I'm saying? But I am not going to throw them under the bus. You get what I'm saying? Nick Cannon got thrown on the bus. And when we discussed that, I even forgot to mention that is it ABC? In America, the network sacked Keke Palmer because she went out on a march. So Keke Palmer went out on a march and she was talking to the police and explaining and doing her best to explain and create an accord and an understanding with the police and the community as to what the gripe was with the protesters. And ABC dropped her show. Immediately dropped her show. So you can see that we're being told stay in the corner, don't have a voice. That can't work. Don't show your teeth. Plastic smile don't work. You know what I'm saying? 0753996843. So, you know, we have also touched on the educational system. On a positive note, because we're always talking about things from a negative point of view. On a positive note, we say we have to do for ourselves. I hope you guys have heard, and if you haven't heard, look it up. You know, the great work done by the young black doctor. I haven't got his name. I need to start writing these things down when I'm doing my looking at my research over the course of the week. I need to start taking notes, right? So basically, a young black doctor realized he's done this for a while. I've heard about this story for a while, but he's now getting the recognition that he deserves. A lot of diseases, a lot of health conditions present different on black skin as it does on white skin. However, as we know, most, if not all of the medical information on diseases are presented on white skin. Not because white people alone get these diseases, but simplicity because of the source of where the information is coming from. And I'm not implying or inferring any kind of racial divide with this one. Sometimes we just overlook the simplicity of things simply because we weren't represented in society due to other factors of racism. Certain other areas might be impacted without even realization. So we give the benefit of the doubt in that sense, in that scenario. So we know that certain diseases of the skin on the black skin present different, on black people present different. And a young doctor has come out with a new manual that shows how the disease presentation is on black skin, you know, identifying these diseases. And this is a really positive thing because if you're a parent, you'll know that, you know, in this country, meningitis is a big thing, right? And they will tell you about if you worried about your child having meningitis and all those things, they will tell you about these red blotches on the skin and so forth, right? And does it disappear when you press a glass on it on all those things? And when you're looking at all the presentations online, all you're seeing is predominantly white skin. I don't know if you can find a black skin one. And you're a parent and you're trying to figure out if your child's okay or whether you're going to be panicking, should you go to A&E or whatever the scenario is and get a diagnosis. But you can't infer from the articles and the sources online, it becomes difficult. And as such, you have to always rely on your gut instinct, even more so, which is not a bad thing because you tend to become your own doctor over time. But how many of us have lost out because they assumed and guessed wrong and incorrectly? So it's good that this young doctor has put out like a lot of these conditions and how they present on someone of melanated skin, because that's extremely important. So on a positive note. Um, there's a few other things that I'm going to jump back onto the discussion of colorism that we had last week, because I've had some time to digest what the producer was saying over the last couple of weeks when we've had a discussion on colorism, and just look into general society. And the person that texted in last week, Alicia, she was very helpful with her analogy and her breakdowns and her explanations of her experience. Um, in terms of just generally looking and trying to understand, what this divide is about, and getting a greater grasp of what's going on, I started seeing like a two-prong issue. One, an issue in terms of interactivity within general society, in how we get on as a people with light skin and dark skin, and our um, throwback issues of slavery over the generation. And one of the things that we have to bear in mind is that we tend to take on a lot of the issues that we've been disposed with over time. So on the BBC there was an article this week, which talks about. So we have to look at this first part of colorism and the impact of slavery, and the light skinned slaves in the house and the dark skinned slaves out in the field. That's the original notion. I got a second notion that I'm going to come back to. But when we look at an article that came out on the BBC website, dated the 24th of July, it talked about the genetic impact of the African slave trade revealed in a DNA study. And it reads, if you haven't read it, that a major DNA study has shed new light on the fate of millions of Africans who were traded as slaves to the Americas between the 16th and 19th century. So you all know that slavery started in 1619, thereabouts, and well, we talk about 400 years of slavery. That means 2019 marked the 400th year. So that marked the genetic culmination of 4 generations, the fourth seed. Mendelian inheritance talks about the fourth seed. The cutoff period. So more than 50,000 people took part in the study, which was able to identify more details of the genetic impact the trade has had on present-day populations in the Americas. It lays bare the consequences of rape, maltreatment, disease, and racism. More than 12.5 million Africans were traded between 1515 and the mid-19th century. Some 2 million of the enslaved men, women, and children died en route to the Americas. A lot of people believe it's far more than that, and that's why I said we need to become the narrators of our own story, because the narration that's going on is extremely biased, and we are continuously going through the same battles of setting the record straight every generation. For the producer's generation, a lot of the things that I experienced in my generation, when I explained to the producer, it's the same things they're going through. It's just taken on a slightly different face. So we aren't doing a good enough job to explain to our younger children the impact, and all that happens is the subtlety of these changes within the schooling system and within society, and they land in the same scenario where they're going through the same difficulties. But we do not realize that they're going through the same scenarios and the same difficulties because it's changed guys. And in the change of guys, the change of guys about these scenarios is simply based on the fact that because we are of a certain age where we no longer are impacted by these subtleties, we think they no longer exist. But these subtleties still exist, they just don't impact on us because the general powers that be sees us no longer as a threat because we are of a certain age where they don't need to focus on us in that manner no more. They don't need to try to break the spirit of an old person because you no longer are of that strength or of influence. They want to break the mentality and the strength of the young, so they target the young folks. So the cycle continues where the same things that we felt and thought we overcame is still going on amongst the youngers, but we don't see it because it's changed guys and it's changed face. So we need to always learn how to communicate across the generations so they learn how to break this cycle. If we're not teaching the younger folks about cycles, we will always end up in the same scenarios. When I say we, I mean we as a people, not you, the individual, where your offspring, your youngster will have that issue. Okay? And each generation, things seem to get a little bit worse. Because whilst it was in my time, it was a bit risque going to certain areas as a youngster, it wasn't as risky as it is now. So with each generation, it gets worse in terms of hate and self-hatred. So this article is very important in its find. So let me continue with what it says. So it says some 2 million, and as I said, the figures, according to what we feel it is far higher. So some 2 million of the enslaved men and women and children died en route to the Americas. The DNA study was led by the consumer genetics company 23andMe and included 30,000 people of African ancestry on both sides of the Atlantic. The findings were published in the American Journal of Human Genetics. Stephen Micheletti, a population geneticist at 23andMe, told AFP news agency that the aim was to compare the genetic results with the manifest of slave ships to see how they agreed and how they disagreed. While much of their findings agreed with historical documentation about where people were taken from in Africa and where they were enslaved in the Americas, in some cases we see that they disagree quite strikingly, he added. The study found in line with the major slave route that most Americans of African descent have roots in territories now located in Angola and the Democratic Republic of Congo. You know, so what was surprising was the overrepresentation of Nigerian ancestry in the US and Latin America when compared to the recorded number of enslaved people from that region. Researchers say that this can be explained by the intercolonial trade that occurred primarily between 1619 and 1807. Millions of people were traded across the Atlantic between 1515 and 1865. They enslaved Nigerians. They believe enslaved Nigerians were transported from the British Caribbean to other areas, presumably to maintain the slave economy as transatlantic slave trading was increasingly prohibited. I'm not going to go through all of it, but it's great if you could type that into. Oh, we got a live caller. If you could type that into the search engine and have a read, and it's extremely interesting. I can go through it if you want, but let me take the caller first. Caller, you're live. Where you calling from? What's your name?
Yes, doctor. I need to talk to you, doctor.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, you know who it is, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
Anyway, doc, what I called to say, is that just two little things I'd like to talk about. I'm not going to a discussion, but just to enlighten people and you yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I wouldn't come on the radio and call a certain particular name, whether religious or group, is because what you say is exactly true. But my doing is to try and protect Omega, because you see what happened to Omega before with one of the most loved, what you would call yourself, a presenter.
Are you going back to a certain lion issue?
Well, I don't know if that's a lie or not.
No, not lion issue. Lion.
What's that?
You're talking about an issue with a presenter back on. I didn't agree with that presenter. I did not.
You didn't agree with it?
No, I did not agree with that presenter.
Okay,
That.
well, I'm not exactly want to go into the disagreement, that agreement. I'm just saying, they might say because he lied, why this happened. But even if you don't lie, it's the same thing. But anyway, my thing with that is I would not call the name, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But if you hear me say Zionist, it's a political term to do with them as well, yeah? Because the other name is a religious, and now they're saying is a part of their people as well. Okay, so my thing is now is slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery, well, first, the word white was started by the people that started slavery. And slavery was started by the Zionist people, people with the name of Zionist, yeah? And they was buying and selling slaves with alcohol, yeah? And I didn't call to talk especially about that, but I just said...
No, I disagree.
Listen,
Mm-hmm.
what I call to say is that even just the other day and the media, we had this topic and it was going on coming that the Africans have sold us because it's hostages, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean people are American, they're American. Instead of the whole America because that's what they do with us, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I bring it up that is because up to today, the Africans are still selling us out. When I say that, you only have to look at the Africans that come here, that join up with the establishment, the satanic system, Babylon, and they place themselves in these in establishments that are crucially I don't know when enslaving us still in the sense, which is the mental health organization, the prison organization, and so on and so on. And what I'm saying is that these people are the people that they put there to abuse us, as I say, that's the Caribbean Americans, the slaves, the slave children. So nothing for me has changed when I can see that. And I'm not talking from just talking. I'm talking from experience. So experience is from knowing. When you experience something, is what you know. If you experience something and you don't know, then something is wrong. Yeah. So what I'm trying to get out there, that our greatest problem is, yes, you want to go back to Africa, and you want to do this, and you want to repatriate, you want to do all these things, but you need to know, brother, that these people had, if they didn't like us, they don't like us now, and they don't like us when they sell us. Now, I'm not going to say that this was overall, because it was overall in the Western Hemisphere where most of the slaves they come from, but there was slaves from Central and part of East as well. And them people have fought to stop the slavery going on, but had ended up selling slaves as well in return of revenge, you would call it.
Can I interject for a moment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just so I don't lose any of the points, right? I just wanted to mention 2 or 3 points. And it's not to kind of promote an active discussion on the matter, because I understand that you saying that the matter might be delicate. Now, my first point is this: I am not supporting negative comments against anyone, and I didn't support the presenter, because
No, 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 no. I didn't say that. No, no,
no,
no.
well,
I was just using
I understand,
why I would not use
no,
negative.
let me explain myself. I didn't,
Okay. So,
let me explain myself, Carla, come on.
okay.
Let me
All
explain
right. But
myself.
I wasn't
Can,
accusing you
can,
of nothing.
yeah, no,
All right.
no, I'm not accusing you of nothing. Just let me explain.
Okay.
The presenter played something that was inappropriate in every sense of the word, because it wasn't filtered and it wasn't accurate. Now, well, and it was presented in a very malicious way, right? Now, that's different between someone being presenting something maliciously and someone ranting because they're angry at something. And I'm saying, if you're ranting because you're angry at something, sometimes the best thing is to promote a conversation to say, well, what sparked this? Why is that? Because if you take away the person's voice, then you take away the ability for there to be an active discussion and to resolve a matter in an amicable way, so everyone can grow and learn from a scenario. I feel that the scenario with Wiley is a learning experience and not a situation where you're telling someone to go sit in the corner and don't speak. And I found it inappropriate. However, and that's why I say I stand supportive of my brother. In the scenario with the presenter, the presenter, like I said, I cannot support what the presenter did, because it was a stupid action, and I'm not going to say it in any other way. It was not something that was coming out from his own experience. It was something that was spewed through vile hatred for whatever reason. And I'm not going to support hatred on that front. What I will support is, if someone's had an experience of something and they're speaking about it, why can't we have that dialogue? That there's the difference. So that's the first point. The next point is when we say that that Zionists started slavery. Again, that's inaccurate. Slavery has been going since time immemorial. Every nation in some capacity have been placed into slavery in one aspect or another.
Okay.
We,
Yeah. I
we
was talking about a particular
yeah,
slave. Yeah. That's
when
it.
we talk about transatlantic slavery,
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry.
when we talk about transatlantic slavery, we know that the Catholic Church had a hand in that. We know that the banking system had a hand in that. We know,
Who was running the bank
I,
at the
and
time?
that's and that's
Did you research that?
and that's why I highlighted when I said the banking system. Now we know that, but it wasn't just a one-party system. It's like the City of London now. Everyone that it was business and economics at the time, so everyone that was anyone wanted to be part of this booming trade. You see what I'm saying? So it's not something that I'm going to point at someone and go, "Oh, you did this because all of a sudden they were evil, more evil than anyone else." It was something that was widespread across Europe. The worst and most vile aspect of slavery was perpetrated by the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. That's the worst and most vile aspects of slavery. In all other areas that was not white Anglo-Saxon Protestants or WASP, slavery was a period of indentureship for something like 23 years per se. After that period of time was served, a slave was deemed free. Under white Anglo-Saxon Protestant slavery, it was also for that period of time until a very own slave owner fought for that to change. And that slave owner was himself a black man, for lack of a better word of saying it. After that, it became a lifetime. That information was brought to the forefront and highlighted through records by Dr. Claude Anderson. So if you want further information from that, that's the source of that information. But the point I'm making is that yes, we are sometimes at the root of our own difficulties. When we look at when we look at Africans betraying other Africans or us along the route, it bears no profit for us to be sitting there not looking for where we get on, but looking for where we don't get on. Because all that.
Okay, I agree with that. Definitely agree with that. And this is what I'm trying to say as well. I might say something wrong. It's not a black and white. Don't go into this thing as a black and white because a lot of us don't want to believe overstand and do our research that this was not just a white Zionist slavery chain thing. This was the continent was a part of it as well. There was value from it as well.
I'm going to ask you one favor, right? I'm going to say refrain from the term Zionist. And the reason why I say that, because there's implications and inferences that can be drawn from that. And when we say that, it takes it back to when we have racist groups trying to tarnish a whole bunch of people with a brush. Like I said, in every race or in every group, whether religious or race or whatever, you have good and bad. When we use certain terms, it implies everyone in that scenario is of some devilishment, and that can't be the case. You understand? That's it.
That's what you need to know. The Zionist is a political.
Right. So, the reason why I'm saying refrain from that. Yeah. Right. I understand. I understand you're encompassing everyone in that, but the reason why I'm saying refrain from that term is because everyone tends to apply that term to them, and I don't want that to be the case. I'm not. No, they can come down. They can come down and say what they want to say, because I say nothing negative about nobody, and I don't promote that. You understand? I don't care. That's not my. I don't care about that, because I'm not burning no fire upon nobody. I'm setting the record straight. I back my brother. No, that's what I'm saying. I say I back my brother, and I explain the reasons why I back my brother. I haven't thrown anyone under the bus in trying to say, oh, they this and they that, and but that's ridiculous. No one benefits from that. You know what I mean? We need, as a people, we need to look at how we can get on. And I'm saying there needs to be dialogue. Yeah, there needs to be dialogue, and in shutting down a conversation, there's no dialogue. It makes it. Whilst I said with great power comes great responsibility, and perhaps the brother could have presented in a different light, but what he said, I can't see the deep-seated issue in what he said. You get what I'm saying?
It's just the name. That's what I'm saying to you. It's the name, and it's like that. It's that. Anytime you use that name, that's the reaction.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I don't want to use any kind of negative terms or anything like that. I use what the newspaper said. What the Sun newspaper, everything I said is what I read in the newspaper, and I as a person that has a dialogue and a discussion around the news over the past week, I use the terms that's already been highlighted in the press. So if there's something wrong with something that I said, then there's something wrong with what was in the Sun newspaper. I'm highlighting and regurgitating information as per seen within the media. I am not. I put my part in that in terms of what my awareness and my grasp of the scenario. But when I'm presenting the information as is, I present as the paper put it. So everything that I read in all the terms of using the terms, this is what the Sun newspaper placed in their articles, and I've copied that and I've saved that, so it's all there. So anyone that says, "Oh, you said this," I go, "No, I read that from this article, published on this day." So I'm not here to try to create a divide. I'm here to explain what took place and explain where I stand, whilst not supporting standing on anyone's shoulder to get out of the situation. I can stand on my own 2 feet to get out of my situation. You know? So yeah, but so I'll let you finish the last part you were saying about Africa and moving forward. And if you're saying that,
I was just saying, they always say that the history repeats itself, and I can only look and see that this is the case right now. I'm just saying, people be careful that you going to Africa and know everything gonna be safe. It's not black and white.
No, it's not.
They say you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going.
Very true.
You have to do your research, you have to know what happened before, so you don't end up in that same situation. Because right now, with the way they're putting us in prison and in the madhouse, that's slavery right there all over again. It's not kind of worse slavery. So, you know what I mean? So that's all I would like to say. So I said, bless brother.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, no worries. Yeah, man, no worries. And I mean, even saying that if you are of any affiliation or religious groups, and I would love to know from you, because like I said, this is a learning curve, and I would love to know that this station has the listening ear of the Black community. So what can you add to the topic of debate that perhaps may disagree with my point of view of supporting Wiley, and how this has affected you or how you view it? So you don't necessarily have to be from the so-called, as Wiley would put it, redneck or KK group. If you're from the Jewish community and this has been hurtful and effective of you, I'd love to hear from you yourself in terms of where you feel he's gone wrong and what he's done wrong, because it stands for us all to learn of how we should all get along, you know, because I'm not here to create no divides, barriers, and bridges. How can we grow together? Because from my point of view, it feels like we're being placed in a corner and say, don't speak. And I'm saying that in reference to whether we speak and we get it wrong, or whether we speak and we get it right, we still get it wrong. And I say that because we have 3 examples so far in recent weeks. We have Nick Cannon, we have Wiley, and we have Kiki Palmer. You know, and then I guess we have also Lewis Hamilton. Has Lewis Hamilton been able to stand the test and the weathering of these scenarios by throwing up the Black Power fist because he's the world champion, or because he's gotten the support of his employers? Because if that is the case, then Mercedes is the example of what we need to follow. You know, employers need to look at the Mercedes example in supporting their employee. Perhaps that's because he's bringing them millions. It don't matter. The fact is, they're the benchmark of the example that's being set right now, because it's important to see that there's a conversation that needs to be had, and frustration will make people say and do things that we need to understand the frustration. And that's what I'm saying. We need to have that conversation. 0753 996 8143. 0753 996 8143. You know, because it doesn't seem like there's a balancement and a fair approach in society. You know, I will be, like I said, every discussion, every topic has its pros and its cons, and every discussion should have its day where it's allowed to have that forefront. But we as a people, we haven't got a voice, and it's dangerous when you don't have a voice and everyone else has a voice, someone that's representative of that group. Where when you feel like you're pushed in the corner with everything, how are you supposed to verbalize your feelings? It comes out in anger. But you cannot bash someone's experience. We push to learn from it so that we all can, you know, enjoy this society, enjoy this world, and get through this pandemic for some and this plandemic for others. That being said, my last point before we go into the news and advert break was my great, I should have finished the article, but my great disappointment I'll finish the article on the other side of the news and the advert on the genetics. My great disappointment in the comments by the Prime Minister when he called people that were anti. Now, I don't want to tell people to be anti-vax because the more people that get it, the more, the more I don't have to worry about it myself. You know what I'm saying? Um, but jokes aside, calling people nuts, as opposed to having a discussion on it, I think his choice of words were, for the first time in a long time, not prime ministerial. While I mean, he says a lot of major blunders, I guess, along the way, but it's not prime ministerial. It's very much in the sense of how the media tries to present Donald Trump, whereas I see Donald Trump as a way better president than many before him, and a way better president than a potential idiot Joe Biden. But again, I don't live in the US and this isn't the United States. You would expect the Prime Minister of the UK to have a bit more decorum and savvy to understand that there's people out there that are looking at this scenario through their own grasp and understanding. And to call them nuts is extremely disrespectful, you know, extremely, extremely disrespectful. I don't know how people have taken that, whether people care or don't care. Some people might not even care, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, when you listen to both sides, you have people that do kind of sound a bit nutty on both sides, you know? You have people that do sound kind of nutty on both sides. But to call people nuts is a bit you expect that from someone like me. So I don't care. Do have some people that are a bit nutty on both sides, you know? But you wouldn't expect it from the Prime Minister. You'd expect the Prime Minister to be a bit more diplomatic, a bit more respectful. But just to call people nuts, come on. So if people don't follow the state narrative and what the state says, they're nuts. That's a very profound statement that people should be worrisome. Or should we be worried about it or weary about it? That the state will view you as being insane if you don't want something? Is that then going to become policy? Will that lead policy? Because you're viewed within the mind of those that make policy as already being insane without a discussion. You have to weigh those things up. Because if someone is saying what they say, you speak, I can't remember the eloquent term I was going to use, but it's worrisome. The country's major policymaker, given the content of his heart in a way that describes people that disagree with the narrative as nuts. So will that drive policy to force people because they don't know what's best for their own well-being? Or would that drive policy to respect people? Because it doesn't sound respectful. It sounds like, oh, well, these lot need a bit of nannying. They're not thinking correctly. We have to think about those things. Text message reads, we blow fuses when we internalize. 746. What do you mean 746? Expound on that. I don't want to, I can infer, but I don't want to infer. I want you to explain what you mean, because like I said, we all grow together when we all have that discussion together. We all develop that mutual mindset, and it's important to develop that mutual mindset. Look at it, think about it. When we watch the BBC, people that watch the BBC News and so forth, they have a certain thinking, right? Because the BBC News kind of pre-programs people towards the state narrative and the state message. So most of those people that watch the BBC News, they will be going along the line of state narrative in their thinking. And if you fall out of that bounds, then there's an issue straight away. That's the BBC, right? You know what I mean? Sometimes the BBC don't even tell you, the BBC News ain't even accurate. It tells you some whole heap of foolishness. When's the last time the BBC weather tell you something truthful? The BBC weather said yesterday that there may be light showers in London, right? It rained all day. It rained all day. The weatherman is like Michael Fish all over again with BBC weather. Every day is a Michael Fish moment. You know, but and that's just the weather. Imagine when they're telling you the stuff they're telling you in the news. And the way that they are clearly and evidently biased towards the state narrative. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but they shouldn't. Because people pay their TV license to have a free and unbiased service. But yet this free and unbiased service isn't free and unbiased because it's biased. You know, so bear that in mind. So, yeah. So we have what? We have about 4 minutes left. Have I got time to finish reading the article? Or should I just advertise the number? It's the doctor's surgery. You know, we'll finish the article on the other side. It's the doctor's surgery. We're on air each and every Tuesday between 8 and 11. You know, we are a little bit late. We're trying our best to get here on time. A lot of times it's parking and then coming in and setting up and then going on air. So we tend to be in the studio sometimes before we come on air for a little bit just to get everything in place. Because as you know, we're streaming live on YouTube. You can watch us live. If you want to take part in the show, you can see us live. And the YouTube is the Doctor's Surgery. You search on the YouTube, go to Doctor's Surgery, and then you filter on the channels, and then we'll be right at the top. If you want to take part in the show, it's an open and active discussion. The number is 0753 996 8143. 0753 996 8143. One last time for the money, 0753 996 8143. The frequency 104.1 Omega FM radio.co.uk. You know, if you know about the doctor's surgery, we encourage active discussion. We don't promote divide or hatred against anyone. I'm a bit flagrant with my language at times, but it is what it is. I'm not trying to really promote hate. I just have to just say, as my mind tells me to say something, I just say it for the thing said. But we don't support any kind of slackness towards anybody, you know. So whether it's towards African people that sell way out back in the day, we still go look towards a mutual way we can work together, because I don't look for the divide. I look for the how we can all interact and get on. Because look at that. Germany went to war with the world in World War One and World War Two. And still yet, you know, Europe interacts with Germany very closely and very effectively. You know, people we get over things, and we work with they work with the structures and the important structures they are within their society. And likewise, we have to get away from the emotional context to say 300-400 years ago, our ancestors in Africa, our brothers and sisters in Africa sold us. And I'm not saying the caller was saying that. Caller, don't think I'm saying that, okay? We have to get away from that narrative. However, because a lot of times, those doing the selling didn't know the atrocities those being sold were about to face. They didn't know, you know? And I think those that were being sold, they themselves didn't know the atrocities that they were going to face. And the ones that probably sensed it, you know, jumped overboard whenever they had a chance. You know, so it's something that we have to always bear in mind, you know, that we always have to bear in mind that, you know, that there's always a finer point to things. You know, we shouldn't just start blaming groups and everybody in that group. We have to look at the finer points. And like the caller said, we use the term Zion to explain that anyone that's a part of that process. In modern days, you know, to make it a bit more neutral and to show and highlight that there's a lot of different groups towards that process, they say deep state. And it's usually influential people and people in certain positions of power, which could be anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're going to take a pause for the cause, pay some bills, and we'll catch you back on the other side for the last hour of the discussion. We'll catch you on the other side.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
What was that?
He was basically saying how the text message.
Hmm.
1 second. The text message